There are so many lenses available today, and it can be really easy to spend a lot of money on the wrong lens. And over the last 25 years, I've owned everything from quality prime lenses to zoom lenses and a combination of both. But I think I've found the ultimate combination with just two. And later on, I'll be talking about how I would change these if I was shooting different genres, from people to sports and more. There used to be a time when prime lenses were a lot sharper than zooms, but nowadays this isn't the case, which is great because it means lighter bags and a lot less lenses to carry. And when I did shoot with primes, there was the odd occasion where I was on the top of a cliff and I wanted to get closer to the subject, but I couldn't. If I'd have had a zoom, I'd have been able to do this no problem. And I have to confess, I've been out a few times where I've taken so much kit with me. And I'm talking 10 lenses, 3 camera bodies and more. I ended up not taking a single photograph because I had that decision paralysis. And it's an absolute nightmare when this happens. Let me know if this has happened to you in the comments below. With a 2-lens setup, it's so much easier because you either have to shoot with one or the other, and that's it. So at the moment, I'm shooting with the 17-28, which is very similar to the 16-35 most manufacturers do make. If you're shooting with a crop censored system, this is very much like the 10-18mm or thereabouts. The second lens is the 50-400 from Tamron, and this is one of those new age super zooms. And this one's surprisingly sharp. But why these two lenses and not something including the 24-70 range? I think it comes down to how striking those photos can look. When you pick out details in a landscape with a telephoto lens, it's easy to cut out those distracting parts. Have you ever been to a location and pointed out a part of that landscape that looked interesting? A telephoto lens gives you the ability to do this, capturing that one interesting part and nothing else, whereas a normal lens feels like it doesn't have quite enough reach to do this effectively. And this is the key to a telephoto's power. You can make things that look quite small from your position look big and grand. And who doesn't want big and grand things in their landscapes? The 50-400 gives me more coverage than the 70-200 and the 100-400 combined, all in one lens. You do suffer ever so slightly with those smaller apertures, but I shoot at f8 to f11, so this really isn't a problem, and when that light does drop, I tend to put the camera on a tripod anyway. One other thing that I've found with shooting with a normal lens is that I'm either shooting at the widest end at 24 or the narrowest end at 70mm. Now these two lenses cover both of those focal lengths. I also hate having big overlaps when it comes to focal ranges, and this is the biggest contributor to having extra weight in your bag that you don't actually need. Let's say you had the 70-200 and the 100-400, that's 100mm of overlap. And it's not necessary with today's lenses. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Tamron, even though it does sound like a Tamron advert. I just really like the way that they're thinking at the moment with these really new and different focal ranges. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you may have seen a video that I did not so long ago where I talked about not getting a wide-angle lens. And you're probably thinking, why are you now telling me to get a wide-angle lens? The truth is that a wide-angle lens is very much an advanced landscape photography lens, and that video is very much aimed at those of you who are just starting out. Getting truly unique photos with a wide-angle lens is really hard, and you need to be so persistent and patient to find those truly new locations that no one else has shot before. And this is the hardest thing with wide-angle photography. So if you are learning the technicalities of photography as well as all of this, it can be really frustrating and it can put you off photography for good. And this is why I said in that video not to get a wide-angle lens when you're first starting out. At this point, it's about enjoying landscape photography and getting some good shots. And there's nothing better than a telephoto lens for this. In saying all of that, if you've built a passion for landscape photography and you really enjoy it and you love finding those compositions, this is when a wide-angle lens really comes into its own. Like I said, I shoot 70-80% of my photos with a telephoto lens, but I always like to have the wide-angle lens with me, so I've always got that option. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't go for the G Master, which is the 16-35 f2.8, that thing is so heavy, and it's so expensive as well. I actually did a comparison between the 16-35 f2.8 from Sony and the Tamron 17-28, and the image quality was almost identical. The focal range is a bit shorter, but at less than half the price, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Imagine being out in the field and all you have to decide is whether it's a wide shot or a close-up. This gives you the answer to which lens you're going to choose. This has freed up my shooting style so much, and now I just focus on getting the shot instead of wondering about whether I'm using the right bit of kit or whether I should change to another bit of kit. Now, this 2-lens setup does suit my style of shooting, but there are a few other combinations you might want to consider. If you worry about that critical gap between 28 and 50, and it's a focal range that you use a lot, you might want to get the 17-28 and the 28-200. This gives you 17-200, again in a 2-lens setup. I still own the 28-200, and as you can see, it's a lot smaller lens than the 50-400. You are losing those 200mm on the longer end, but you're gaining that 50-28mm, and it blends really nicely with the 17-28. As for other genres, if you like that shallow depth of focus look, I'd go for the 17-28 and then the 35-150. This has a maximum aperture of f2 to f2.8, which is fantastic for things like portraits, travel photography and wedding photography. It is a big lens, about the same size as this 50-400, around about 1.15 kilos. But that's the thing, when you're shooting with larger apertures, you do need bigger glass and bigger lenses. I'd prefer to have that extra focal length because I am shooting at f8 to f11 most of the time, and that's why the 50-400 suits me better. Also, if you photograph your kids and your family, or you're that member of the family that they ask whenever there's a wedding about, again, the 35-150 is fantastic for that, although it is a little bit expensive. But like I said, companies like Tamron and Sigma are coming out with quite unique focal ranges, and this is why I love the 17-28 and the 50-400. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide which lenses work best for you and your style of shooting. These two just work really well for me and landscape photography. Now, it's one thing to have the perfect lens setup, but if you're struggling to take interesting photographs, there are a few practical changes you can make. And in this video, I show you exactly how to do that to take some amazing photographs you'll be proud of. I'll see you next time.